Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Friday, July the 6th, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Your second and last daily dose of Happy for the Week. We've had 10 of them so far. That's the way the week goes, right? And it's been a good one. Been an interesting one. At least around here, it's been very interesting. I've once again had all kinds of opportunities to practice being a deliberate creator. And I keep hoping and thinking, Wendy, that I'm getting better and better at it. If I look over the long haul, I can see that. In the short haul, I'm not always sure I can see it, but I just kind of trust it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I know over the long haul, you're definitely, making lots of changes because I hear it in the stories you tell and the experiences that you've had. So things are moving in the right direction.
It's funny, though, how we can easily not recognize it in the immediacy of the now. It's like, am I really making improvement? Am I shifting? Is it getting better? You can't always tell, you know? You have to have that long-term perspective in order to see it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I definitely agree. Like, I get a sense for myself that something big is about to change, shift, be reinvigorated, inspire me towards a new direction, because for the last 3 days, I have just felt bored.
Oh, really?
Really?
That's the indicator.
Yeah, really, really bored, yeah. It as in, like, I clean up certain things in my life, or certain things are coming to an end, and then there's boredom, which is making space to create a hunger and a desire for the next something.
Uh-huh.
So I wouldn't be surprised if over the weekend the next something begins to, take a little bit of shape. So maybe I know what's going on, I have so many projects that are up in the air in terms of, project X, Y, Z, A, B, C, I've got so many things, that it's always shocking to me when I hit a space of boredom, because that doesn't happen very often. But, when was it? Many years ago, when, both my husband and I were both out of work, both just really struggling to try to figure out which way was up. And we had so much time on our hands. And while we were waiting for things to pop, waiting for the interviews to show up, that kind of thing. And, you can only put out so many resumes before you're finding the exact same companies showing up again in your search. And you're like, yep, I've already submitted that one. Yep, I've already submitted that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just got to wait for the phone to ring or something. And I remember him and I just going, oh my God, we are so bored. We've watched wonderful programming, but we've now seen as much as we care to see. We've gone out to great restaurants, and it's like, yeah, we're bored with that. And I remember saying to him, it's during the times of boredom that we're not appreciating the empty space in our life, because there's going to come a time when all of a sudden things go back into the hysteria of living life and lots of things going on. And we're going to really wish that we had some of this boredom to, like, counteract what's going to come. And sure enough, I remember when we were, both very gainfully employed and working lots of overtime and hardly ever seeing each other. And I'm like, do you remember that day when we sat there in boredom,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
thinking we didn't like this, and that one day we're going to wish this is what we had? And he goes, oh yeah, I'm so wishing it. I'm so wishing it. So it's kind of funny how, it's easy to want what you don't have. It's easier to think the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, it often seems that way. It's true. I know for myself, it's not so much that I want to be bored. I don't think I've ever really wanted to be bored. What I want is the freedom to decide how I'm going to, do my day, rather than being tied to it because, I have, some job commitment, or, I promised to give my time to somebody else or whatever. I just want to be able to have the large block of time, and it's like, oh, good, I get to create endlessly. I don't have to. I don't have to tell somebody else what I'm going to do. I don't have to make sure that the employees are doing what they're doing or anything like that. I can just do what I want for my block of time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the part that I like.
Yeah. Well, and I've been really thinking about that kind of thing lately, because so I have the day job, and it requires that I do specific tasks. And then I have the Project X new career, where it's all under my control. And part of me wonders, okay, so when it's all under my control, will I actually do something? Now, what makes that kind of an odd question is I was a freelance artist for like 15 years, where I always managed to find what needed to be done, and I always had more than enough to do. But it's been a long time since I've done that. And so not being in that space right now is making me wonder, okay, will I be as good at planning my time when it's all up to me? I think I will, but because I'm not there, it just makes me wonder.
That I have to say, that's a funny thing to hear an executive admin say, because all you do all day long is help people stay organized and on track and so forth. And now you're wondering, geez, can I do it for myself? I mean, come on, of course you can. You've got years of experience.
And I know I can, but there's something about knowing that somebody else is reaching out to me saying, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Or where do I find this? Or who do I call? And the majority of what I do is orchestrated based on other people asking me for stuff. Or I just have a whole litany of things that I just do on a regular basis because it's how my team stays on target.
So you're really wondering about being the initiator then?
Exactly. Because right now my motivation or the initiation of what I do is orchestrated outside of me. So yeah, exactly. I'm looking at it going, okay, so when it's all about me, and I know I have all these millions of ideas of things I want to do, and then like when I have a weekend or I have some free time to do it, I'm like, huh. And I don't know if that's happening because it's really not the right time for me to do it, or, well, I guess I could say that's where my concern comes in, is what if I could be doing stuff right now and not being bored, but I'm not taking my own initiative because I'm waiting for something, but yet I live my life by the intuitive impulse. And then I'm like, but if I can't hear the impulse because I have resistance, then will I know that I should be doing something? And I get myself all tied up in a knot.
Apparently, yeah. Wow.
So anyway, I've put a call on the schedule for Sunday, and I'm going to talk to one of my coach friends, and this is what I'm going to bring up as the topic so that I can kind of get to the bottom of it and move through it.
Somehow, I don't think it's going to take very long. I think you're going to probably spend about 15 minutes on that, and then you'll spend the rest of the afternoon chit-chatting about all the other stuff you like. Seriously, I don't see you spending a whole lot of time on this one. I see you just zipping through it. I could be wrong, but I mean, I'd be really surprised.
Well, because it's been in my space for a while, it's not so much that I can't trust me or I can't trust my inner being, but I do really well when I have somebody who can support me, where I can talk myself through something. I tend to be very cathartic in nature. And so just having someone to just brainstorm, here's some thoughts I have, and then have that person on occasion ask me questions to kind of help navigate, and help me think up other stuff. That's just part of my natural process of how I do stuff. So I just haven't had somebody to do that with in a week or so. So it's time to do it again.
In a week or so. I love the way you say it. In a week or so. Make it sound like it's 6 months or something.
Oh, no. I'm used to doing it maybe every couple of days. I like to have somebody who's in my life like every day so I can bounce stuff off them every day.
Okay.
It was funny when I was married, the way we have our house set up, my office was next to my husband's office, home office that is.
Right.
And he would get home from work usually around 3:00, and I was still working at my desk. And so he would come up into his office and he would do some gaming. And so what was nice about it is there was only a wall between us, but it was really easy to just raise the level of our voice a little bit, and we could actually have a conversation,
Yep.
through the wall.
Oh yeah.
But like when I would get off work, where I'm like, I'm clocked out, I'd go into his office and I'd sit down and I'd go blah, 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 blah. And I would just start talking about stuff. And one day he said to me, do you realize that you come in here every single day and download your day to me? And I went, I do? And I went, yeah, I do. And he said, rarely do you actually need anything from me, because when I really need him to tune in, I'll say, can you listen? Because I'm going to ask you some questions. I'll need a response. Mm-hmm. But most of the time he goes, you don't need anything. You just come in and download. And I said, well, actually, I know you're thinking it's like I don't need something, but you have no idea how valuable just your presence is. And even if I'm just downloading and I'm not requiring you to respond, I said, knowing I'm telling it to a person, I know that you're listening because he had an incredible ability. If I really wanted his undivided attention, I know this might sound weird, talking to him while he was gaming was the best way to get it. Somehow he was very focused on what I was saying while he was gaming. And so if I really needed something, he would absolutely respond and give me feedback, and I knew he could. So that was something after, our marriage ended. I thought, what am I going to do? I won't have my daily download person.
Yeah.
So I have found other people to do that with. But it's a little bit here, it's a little bit there, and it's not as routine as it was when I was married. But I've been divorced for 6 years, so it's not like I've totally gone without. It's just things change. People's place in my life change, so I'm kind of going through a transition of who I download to.
Well, I mean, when you were describing how you would do your download and your husband, for the most part, would just kind of sit there and not really do anything, it reminded me of something that Louise and I do. Well, actually, she does it, and I just I'm like the object of it. I'll be in the room, and she's talking with somebody, and all of a sudden she's reaching. She's like trying to think, what was this thing that I'm reaching for? And she'll look over at me, and I'm not even part of the conversation. I haven't been listening, so I have no idea what she's talking about. And she looks over at me, and I just kind of shrug my shoulders. She says, oh, yes, of course. And then she says whatever it is. And I said, yeah, but I didn't do anything. She says, yeah, but just looking at you, I get the answer. It's like, okay. I don't know what I'm doing, but great.
There's some invisible thing about having a person that you're bonded with that somehow does these magical things. So
I guess
take the credit for it and move on.
But here's the thing. I mean, if she actually wanted to help with that, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Where do you begin to be an object? I don't know what to do with that one. I mean, at least
they're just a special breed of people. Just like I said, just take the compliment and move on.
Take it and move on. Yeah. I mean, at least when if she's like she needs to talk to me about something just because she needs to talk, at least I know that signal, so I can just go with it and just do the active listening thing, and I can do that. That's easily enough. But in that case, I at least know what role I'm playing. In this other situation, I never know what the role is. It's like I'm out on stage and nobody gave me the script. Oh, well.
All right. Well, let's see where we are in our book today.
We are getting closer and closer to completion. We're on page 163 of The Law of Attraction, The Basics of the Teachings of Abraham by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And we're in the middle of this concept of segment intending, which is part 5 of the book. The subsection we're looking at is, very, very straightforward, very accurate. We've talked about it in a lot of different ways. As I am feeling, I am attracting. So you want to read today, or shall I read today?
No, I like when you read.
Okay. So Abraham says, now this is the key to your deliberate creating. See yourself as this magnet, attracting unto you the way you feel at any point in time. When you feel clear and in control, you will attract circumstances of clarity. When you feel happy, you will attract circumstances of happiness. When you feel healthy, you will attract circumstances of health. I detect a pattern here. When you feel prosperous, you will attract circumstances of prosperity. When you feel loved, you will attract circumstances of love. Literally, the way you feel is your point of attraction. And so the value of segment intending here is that you pause many times during your day to say, this is what I want from this segment of my life experience. I want it and I expect it. And as you set forth those powerful words, you become what we call a selective sifter. And you will attract into your experience what you want. You see, the universe, indeed the very world in which you live, is filled with all sorts of things. There are things that you like very much, just as there are things that you do not like very much. Yeah, that's true. But all of that comes into your experience only by your invitation through thought. And so if you are taking the time, many times in a day, to identify what you want and setting forth your statement of desire and expectation, You will gain the magnetic control of your own experience. No more will you be the victim. Well, there really is no such thing. And no more will you be the indeliberate attractor or the default attractor. Once you begin to segment your day to identify many times in the day what it is you do want, now you are a deliberate attractor, and that is a joyful experience. And as I read that, I realized I've got a story to tell. I have a story to tell that ties in perfectly with what they're talking about, this whole concept of segment intending. And it happened this morning. I had gotten up, I actually got fairly early, and I was making myself some breakfast and kind of getting ready for the day, and thought about segment intending. It actually came to my mind. I figured, good, I thought of that after we'd been talking about it, and I'm glad it came to my mind. And I was thinking about a situation with a guy I know who he's somebody who I interact with on a fairly regular basis, and I even mentioned him this morning, but in the morning podcast. But I had been wanting him to get a certain thing done, and he had been kind of putting it off. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to try to segment intend and use it to put out just a vibration that he's going to want to get it done. So this is a good time to practice, right? It's early morning, nothing to get in the way. Let's do it. And so I started visualizing, and I started visualizing him, not only getting the task done, but being happy about it, and even feeling fulfilled, maybe even doing a little dance. I mean, I was really just building it up. And do you know, within 1 minute, I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, I got the thing done you wanted me to get done."
Whoa! Now that's a fast response.
That was incredible. I don't remember the last time I got response that fast. But that one blew me away.
Okay, so now, not to burst this at all, burst your bubble, but I'm just curious, was that really like the textbook definition of segment intending, or was it just you focusing on something you desired?
I'm not sure I can even give you a distinction in this case. It could have been either one.
Okay.
All I know is I thought it, and it happened, and I was blown away. That's all I needed.
that is like so very cool. That's so very cool.
I mean, of course, the thought that goes through my head is, well, why doesn't it always happen that way? And then I immediately get the answer, because you're resisting it. It's like, oh, damn. There it goes again, that darn resistance.
What? Oh, because you're resisting it?
Because you're resisting it. It's like,
okay.
Oh, jeez.
Well, so in this case, when you were visualizing and feeling what you were desiring, were you able to tell that you didn't have any resistance?
Well, I can say that when I was kind of gearing myself up to do it, the minute or so that I was gearing up to do it, I was going through some just deliberate relaxation. It's like, okay, breathe and relax and like shake it off and so forth. So I was really deliberately relaxing. I was very, very specifically focused on, okay, let's just relax and just do this thing. So was I removing resistance? Was I eliminating resistance? I guess so. The result tells me I did.
Instead of removing it, in the moment that you were being deliberate about that which you were desiring, were you able to sense, because you were in this relaxed state, that you were really only focusing on what you desired?
Yeah, it was that clean.
Okay.
Partly because it was early in the day. I mean, I didn't have enough that I'd done yet to cloud my mind up.
Well, and that's an awesome point, because Abraham does say that in the beginning of the day, that's when you're at your least resistant moment. And, I was listening to a YouTube yesterday, and as I was listening to, Abraham speak, I kind of caught this glimpse of an idea that made me think, maybe, especially because I'm a coach, I'm actually thinking about resistance more often than is necessary. Because I got the impression, and I think your illustration speaks to this, which is maybe you had some resistance before, like maybe the day before that, when you thought about it, you're like, oh, he's not getting this thing done.
Mm-hmm.
But this morning, as you were focused on it, if you weren't focused on he's not getting it done, and all you focused on was, wouldn't it be great if he got this thing done in this way and blah, 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 blah. If that's all you were focused on this morning, then that's what the law of attraction responded to.
And that's true. That really is true. I mean, I was not in any way on the track of, oh, geez, when's he going to get this done? That wasn't even part of my mental conversation.
But prior to this morning, there some,
oh,
he's
yeah.
not getting this done, and I really wish he would.
Some would be an understatement. That was
okay,
a lot.
So then I think your example, or the story you tell, is an example of how, yes, this was a subject where there had been resistance, but when at the very timing you chose to focus upon it, you were not dragging the resistance into your story or into your visualization. All you were doing was just relaxing and visualizing what you wanted.
Yeah, it was that clean, that very straightforward. Yes, I agree. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So honestly, from what I heard yesterday on the YouTube, what you just gave as the example is kind of the idea that I thought they were saying is possible, where you don't have to work out all the resistance and figure out how to let it go. You just desired it from a point in your day when there just wasn't resistance because you were in a space of relaxation.
It was just missing.
And in a good place.
Yeah. It's not really like I did a whole lot. I mean, I did do some. Like I said, I did a little deep breath. Okay, let's try to do this. But I didn't feel like I had anything that I had to let go of, which is par for the course for me. Right. I almost never have any idea of anything I'm letting go of. But looking back, I can say, no, it's not like I had on my mind, oh, God, is he going to do this? And I didn't have to let any of that go at all. It wasn't even there to let go of. So now the real question is, how can I replicate those circumstances? The next time that I want to attract it, how do I get myself into that space where I don't have to let anything go because it wasn't even in my mind in the first place?
So were you, like, when you decided to start focusing on what you wanted from him, was that the purpose of you sitting down and breathing deeply because you were going to take this time to, like, visualize on this thing?
Well, actually, I was standing at the stove cooking some eggs, but yes. I mean, I was just doing it as part of the activity.
It wasn't like you were purposely meditating.
No.
It was just you were cooking yourself some breakfast.
Yep.
The idea about this thing that you desired came to mind.
Yep.
And before you started visualizing, you were purposeful about taking a breath and relaxing.
Yes.
And then allowing yourself to focus on this thing.
Right.
You know what? Well, I don't think if somebody were trying to say, what are the steps to deliberate creation in a way that's filled with ease and flow, that would be it.
Well, yeah.
So you just asked the question, how do I do it deliberately? And I just played back the steps for you.
Oh, just do the steps. Okay. Well,
okay,
all right.
So do you want to hear the steps again?
All right, yeah, good.
So this
go ahead.
time you can calculate it and go, oh, this is how I do it next time on my own.
Okay.
So when a thought comes to mind, such as I want this guy to do blah, 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 when the thought just comes to mind, you took a deep breath, you noticed that you felt relaxed, and then you started visualizing and saying to yourself what it is that you desired. And then you let it go. And you went back to making your eggs. Or maybe you never stopped making your eggs.
Yeah, I don't think I ever stopped. As you describe it that way, I think I've identified a factor in me, and it may be a factor other people experience too, which is I have a tendency to go looking for the resistance. And that's when it shows up. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, how do I get rid of this resistance? You see what I mean?
So you're talking about something separate from this morning.
Right. Like if I tried to do this the previous day when I was feeling like, oh, geez, he's not getting this thing done, that would have been a feeling of resistance.
And that would have not been a good time to do this.
And I'm beginning to realize that what I probably do is if it's yesterday and I'm wanting to do this, probably what's happening on maybe it's a subconscious level, I'm not really sure, but as the idea occurs to me that I really want to attract this, the first thing I'm doing mentally in some way is looking for the idea, well, he's just not getting this done. I look for the resistance. And that's, I think, is probably why I end up with the question, well, okay, I've got this resistance. How do I get rid of it? Well, probably the best way to get rid of it is not to go looking for it in the first place.
So when you use the word resistance, what is it you're looking for? Because you said you normally are looking for the resistance.
Well, I'm not saying
to describe it.
I'm not saying that I'm doing it deliberately. I'm trying to express that it's just like a default pattern that I've fallen into of, very first reaction. Okay, so where's my resistance? Oh, there it is. He's not going to do the job.
So do you literally say to yourself, "Where's the resistance"?
No. I'm trying to be descriptive about what I'm experiencing. When I'm actually in the middle of that, there's no thought pattern. It's just blip over to he's not going to do this. Oh, he's not getting this done.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So what goes through your mind is why is he not doing this? Or
it's first thought.
He's going to get this done.
First impression. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this time that didn't
labeling
happen.
it as this. Okay, you're labeling it as resistance,
right,
but you're not thinking the phrase.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And this time I just didn't do that. I didn't go there at all. I just went right to, geez, this is a good time to practice. Zipped right past it.
Got it. Well, and the reason I was kind of getting a little nitpicky was because I think the people who are listening, including myself, I don't usually think and use the phrase resistance while I'm having my own internal dialogue.
No.
And so I was curious as to what the dialogue really was so that other people can kind of put themselves in your shoes.
Right. Yeah. No.
Go,
I would definitely
I do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're all that mad people who say, you know what, I'm going to be resistant for a moment. That's not the way we think about stuff.
Exactly.
I feel so resistant right now,
No, normally it comes with words like, he's such an idiot.
Yeah, right.
When is he going to get his act together?
Exactly.
How many times have I asked him to do this? He promised it by last week. It's still not done. Yeah, those are more like the normal words, I think, that we really say in our head.
That'd be pretty much it, yeah. I love that, too.
Yeah,
when you're reading that litany, when you're repeating that litany of all the different things, well, he's so resistant, he's such an idiot, he never gets this done. When you're going through that thing, this time, because of the conversation we had, I found myself laughing at it. You could hear me laughing. And as you were saying it, it sounded ridiculous. Which is not the way we normally experience it. Normally when we're saying, oh, he's such an idiot, we're actually feeling, oh, he's such an idiot. This time, as you're saying it, I was thinking, that's such a ridiculous thing to say.
So when that's the case, that's when I would say whatever energy or thoughts had been connected to the negative side have subsided and or lifted or been changed.
Oh, yeah.
Because now when you hear them, they don't feel true anymore.
Well, especially since I found out he actually got it done, so now there's nothing hanging over me anymore. Right?
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. That was an awesome illustration to pull apart and dissect in every way we could. I got a lot from it. I hope our listeners did too.
What I know is that it's one more piece of evidence, and I've had a few of them this year, that shows me just how quickly the universe really does want to respond. When I don't have the resistance away, bang, it's right there. And I need to know that. I need to have those experiences. Those experiences really reinforce for me the speed that would be involved if the resistance wasn't in the way.
I think what begs the question now is, so you went into this morning without dragging any of your previous negative internal dialogue into your current, into this morning's visualization.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, instead of asking the question, how could I do this again? I think the real question is, how do I not drag all my previous negative thoughts and beliefs into a visualization of what I really desire?
Okay, I there's a piece of me that thinks if I ask the question that way, I'll instantly be thinking about, oh, what an idiot he is.
Well, yes, I get that. But I think the magic in this morning is without you even being aware, without you premeditating it, you were in a space of feeling good, and you breathed and you relaxed and you expanded your feel-good environment. You expanded the feel-good zone you were in, and just purposefully went, you know, what I really wish could happen is, or I wonder when he would call me, or wouldn't it be cool if, or this is what I would like it to look like. And you just went there.
Yeah, I think it was actually a really straightforward thing that I said to myself, too. I just said to myself, you know what? I'm visualizing that he got it done. It was that straight. It wasn't like I wish he would, or it would be great if he could. I just,
okay.
You know, I see him getting it done.
Okay. That's really cool.
It is.
You know, I'm taking this deep breath because I think about, and I'm just thinking about my own stuff, how I tend to bring all of the what ifs and the, well, it hasn't happened before, and, you know, could I just visualize it now and let that be sufficient? Like, really? Is it that easy? Because, yeah, sometimes I still like to make it hard.
Oh, I know I do. I know I do, like, for sure.
It could be that easy.
Yeah.
So if I think about, okay, I was talking about how I was just kind of bored and I didn't really have a cathartic person to like bounce it all off of. It's like, what if I just took 5 minutes or less, maybe 2 minutes, maybe a second, maybe things move so fast. Maybe I just take a moment. How's that? I won't even say what time period. What if I just take a moment and just ask myself, what do I want? What does I want? And what would it look like if I had it?
Yeah. How would it feel?
Let it go.
Yeah.
I mean, that just the thought of doing that feels like, well, I couldn't get resistance in there, because if I'm just asking what I want, it's kind of like a wish list. You know, it's kind of like just, and by even calling it a wish list, I think I downgraded it. But just throwing out an imagination of, wouldn't it be nice if blah, blah, blah happened? You know?
I do know that part of it is, part of why it worked today, why it worked so nicely for me, and I got such a great, fast result, is I didn't take any time to analyze it. I took no time. I just said, let's do it.
Oh, you just shot me in the heart, Walt. Asking me not to analyze. No, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Because thinking it and overthinking it can kill it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really good at that. Thinking it and overthinking it.
Well, I think we're world champions, actually.
Well, I think that's why working with clients is so fun for me. Because unlike, okay, so I used to have a question about, should I be taking notes and should I plan for these things? And my internal answer was no. And I think now I know why. Because when I prepare for something, I've already overanalyzed it. And I've lost the in-the-moment connection to receiving the in-the-moment guidance.
That makes sense.
And when I'm having a session with a client, or even when I'm talking to my friends, because I don't know what we're going to say. You know, when you call somebody because you haven't talked to them a while, you don't necessarily have a topic all worked out. In the moment is how I let my inner being just flow through me. I never know what my inner being is going to present, but I just say it. And then when the client says, oh my God, you used that word. How did you know to use that word? That's my word. I'm like, well, inner being knew that. I didn't, you know, but that's what makes it so fun. And so like in my sessions, I don't take notes. I don't prepare, because that actually takes me out of being present.
I can see that.
And I'm not. And that way I'm not thinking, I'm not overanalyzing.
Sure.
I just go with the flow. And so I think you brought up something that's really quite poignant for me, which is the thinking it, overanalyzing it, labeling it. That really takes the now out of the moment.
And the example really shows just how easily we can overanalyze. I mean, literally doing anything more than what I actually did would have been overanalyzing. All I did was stick to, here's a good opportunity, let's do it, how will I feel, bang, it's done. Anything else beyond that would have been overanalyzing.
and you weren't doing an exercise.
Nope.
And you weren't doing an exercise where you say, okay, am I doing it correctly?
Nope.
Or is this how it was written up in the book? Did I do step 3 right?
Did I even do step 3 at all?
Yeah. I mean, that's really very cool.
Yeah.
It's like I'm really ingesting this idea of you get an idea, you do it, you're done.
It kind of reminds me of it reminds me of Yogi Berraism. Yogi Berra, of course, had some of the most wonderful, very wise cliches that he came up with. And one of them was, you can think or you can hit a baseball, but you can't do both at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about hitting a baseball is not the same thing as hitting the baseball.
And his point is it would actually interfere with hitting the baseball.
You have to be in your body. You have to be present. You have to have done your homework. And then you just let the moment happen.
Yep. You let the muscle memory take over and you just react. Bang.
Wow.
Yeah. Because especially with today's pitchers, I mean, when he pitched, a fast pitch was 90 miles an hour. Today, 105 is a fast pitch. I mean,
wow.
It's hard to convey. I mean, you're talking about the speeds of like a underhand, a fast pitch softball pitcher, because they're closer to the plate, and I mean, it just wings right in there. So, I mean, in fast pitch softball, you get no hitters all over the place because there's just no time to react. So you literally have to just swing. You can't think about it. You can't figure out how to swing. It's just, move the hands, do it. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's all you have time for.
Wow. Well, Walt, I have to say that this story that you had today really took us into some really great places.
You did, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then let's see what the next part of the book leads to. Maybe it'll lead to another story. You never know.
All righty. Let's go there.
So it says, what is it that I now want? Yeah, well, there we are, right in the now. The reason that segment intending is so effective is because there are so many subjects you could consider, but when you try to do so let me say that again. But when you try to do so all at the same time, you become overwhelmed and confused. Isn't that what we were just talking about? Doing just one thing and just doing it. Do it. Don't think about it. Don't get distracted. Just do that one thing. That's it. Mm-hmm. The value of intending, segment by segment, is that as you focus more precisely on the fewer details of this moment, you allow the law of attraction to more powerfully respond, and you are less likely to confuse the issue further with your contradictory thoughts of doubt, worry, or an awareness of lack. In other words, you can't think and hit at the same time. It's true. For example, when your telephone rings, you might pick it up and say, "Good morning." And when you hear who it is, you say, "Hello there, hold just a second, please." And then you say to yourself, what is it that I most want to achieve in this conversation? Now, I have to admit, I've never answered a phone like that, where I said, what do I want to achieve in this conversation? This is
where
brand new.
Put somebody on hold
Putting somebody on hold.
Yeah,
I've never done that. No. But we'll hypothetically go along with it just for the heck of it. So, okay, it says, what is it that I most want to achieve in this conversation? I want to uplift the other person. I want to be understood. I want the other person to understand me, and I want the other to be positively influenced in the direction of my desire. I want the other to be stimulated and excited by my words. Indeed, I want this to be a successful conversation. And then I get back on the line and find out he's trying to sell me a magazine subscription.
Is that what it says, or is that what you're
that's me. That's me paraphrasing.
Okay.
No, actually, what it really says is then when you come back on the line, you have pre-paved. And now that other one will respond to you much more in accordance with your desire than if you had not taken that time. So he won't try to sell me a magazine subscription? No, sorry.
Well, you know what? Let me pause just for a moment. What Abraham is saying is literally you say, hold on a moment. You think through what you want, and then when you go back to the phone call, you can actually receive that quickly. Like, how's that for responsiveness from law of attraction?
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, that's like within seconds, right?
Very quick. Yeah.
That's very quick. So I think I've never heard or I've never paid attention to this level that they're really saying law of attraction is so incredibly responsive that you can literally pick up a phone, say, hold a moment, decide, like get centered, focused. What do I want? Decide what you want, put the person back on the phone and let her rip. And law of attraction's ready to roll.
I just realized, too, they call that pre-paving, but in a sense, it's paving in the middle. Because the conversation already started, and you just put it on hold so you could do your pre-paving, which is actually in the middle.
Okay, if that's how you want to look at it, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, well, what it tells me is I can have started some activity, like a phone conversation, and realize that I didn't do my segment intending, and say, oh, wait a minute, stop, and I can do my segment intending, and it works anyway.
So I'm getting this image of, let's say you go to somebody's house for a social gathering, and you haven't done any pre-paving or any segment intending, and you walk in the door, they take your coat, and you walk in and you just say, can you direct me to the powder room?
Right.
And they send you off to the powder room. And while you're in there, you quickly do your pre-paving because you forgot to do it before.
Right.
And then you come out fresh as a daisy.
Exactly.
Ready for law of attraction to deliver to you that what you desire.
And I can honestly say I have done that. I mean, I didn't call it the powder room, but everything else in there that you described, I've done.
And what kind of results did you get?
I don't honestly remember the details of it. What I do remember is that it was a very pleasant visit.
Well, and let's just kind of insert here in this part of the conversation that if you have a whole bunch of already concerning the people that you're going to interact with, the first time you do this, you may not get the most incredible, awesome result. But the more you do this, even with the same people, I'm getting the idea that it would become better and better.
I would say even the fact that, yes, it's the first time you're doing it, so you're not going to get an awesome result, but I'll bet you get a better result than you did the last time.
Yes, and that I would agree. Because if you have focused some positive energy on the situation, that's got to be better than if you didn't focus it at all.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Now,
all right.
Continuing,
so
it also says when another person has initiated the phone call, they know what they want. And so you must take a moment to identify what you want. Otherwise, by the power of their influence, they may achieve what they want, but you may not. So another reason to do this. If you want many things all at the same time, it adds confusion. Yes, raise my hand. True. Got it. But when you focus upon the most important specifics of what you want in any particular moment, you bring about clarity, power, and speed. And that is the point of the segment intending process. To stop as you are entering a new segment and to identify what it is you most want so that you may give it your attention and therefore draw power unto that.
What were the 3 words? Clarity, power, and speed?
Clarity, power, and speed, right.
I love those 3 words.
Yeah.
That's like the trifecta. Clarity, power, and speed.
Yeah, it is a trifecta. It's a really good one. Some of you are focused during some segments of your day's experience, but there are very few of you who are focused during very much of your day. And so, for most of you, an identification of segments and an intent to identify what is most important within those segments will put you in the position of being a deliberate magnetic attractor or creator in each of your segments throughout your day. And not only will you now find that you are more productive, but you will find that you are happier. For as you are deliberately intending and then allowing and receiving, you will find great contentment. You are growth-seeking beings, and as you are moving forward, you are at your happiest, while when you have that feeling of stagnation, you are not at your happiest. And I can say, in the moment of that little thing that I did this morning kind of by accident, where I wasn't putting up any resistance, yeah, I did feel happy. And then I got the result, and I said, wow, this is really cool. Can we do that again?
Well, you know what? So when you just played it back for me, you said that thing that I did where I didn't have any resistance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate for just grins.
Yeah.
For what purpose did you throw in that line where I didn't have any resistance instead of saying where the entire experience was coming from a place of pure positive energy?
No idea, but I like the point. Seriously, I mean,
Cool.
I said it because I said it. I could not
Right.
possibly point at a reason why I said it. I just said it because I said it, because it's a habitual way of
Okay.
expressing things.
Well, and I think that that's fair. It is a habitual thing because I've heard you say that. You've told me you've heard yourself, you know, focused on resistance.
Hmm.
But I just happened to notice it when you said it. I went, "Ooh, that felt weird to me," because we're talking about like a pure positive experience.
Mm.
Why would he say that?
Well,
Why would he label it that
one thing
way?
one thing I do know for sure is that all of us as humans are regularly in the habit of expressing stuff in the negative. And it takes a lot of effort at times for us to turn negative into positive. When we successfully do it, a number of things happen. First of all, the phrases get shorter, which is really interesting. They become short, they become concise, they become clear. And the second thing that happens is they feel better. But interestingly enough, because we are so habituated to saying things in the negative, it takes effort for us to turn it around at first.
Right. Until it becomes a new habit on the other side of the stick,
Right, because
where it
we
becomes
kept repeating it.
habituated to, yeah, when we start talking from a pure positive energy space more often, that becomes the thing that's habituated and easier to do.
And it shows up in a lot of ways. I mean, one of my favorites is one that Cindy and I explored together, because Abraham says you can't get it wrong and you'll never get it done. And when I was talking about that with her one day, I said, that really needs to be turned into the positive. And so I thought about it and I said, you always get it right and the road goes on forever. And her reaction was, whoa, that does feel better, doesn't it? And it does. It just feels more straightforward and it feels clean. And it feels like there's no extra baggage hanging onto it. But
That's fine.
it took a mental activity to get it around to here's what Abraham's really saying.
You never get it done. Wait, you can't get it wrong and you never get it done.
And that's what I'm
And
trying to turn around.
You changed it to what?
I changed it to you always get it right and the road goes on forever.
Hmm.
What would you change it into? I mean, that's not the only possible answer.
Yeah, for me, saying you always get it right, there's a little bit of sticky niggly in there.
Okay.
I do like you can't get it wrong. That does resonate with me. However, the second part is where I feel like I didn't like it because you never get it done. So I really like and the road goes on forever. So for me, if I said I can't get it wrong because the road goes on forever and I can do it over and over and over, that feels good to me.
Okay. So you really don't feel bothered by the negative inversion of the first part.
No, because that fits how I think.
Oh,
In
okay.
other words, for years, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And so if I just turn it around to, I can never get it, if I turn it around to, I always get it right, my brain immediately goes, that's not true. Because there will always be things that I'm going to want to change. So even though the truth in it is, I always get it, I could say I always get it right, but I'd have to qualify it. I always get it right because every result brings me closer to the result I'm aiming for.
Yeah. I mean,
That one just, it would take me a little bit more massaging of that phrase, to own whatever the result is always right.
I like Mike Dooley's GPS analogy for interpreting this stuff for this particular kind of
Okay.
point. Because with his GPS analogy, he says you climb into your car and you put the key in the ignition and you put your vision boards in the back seat and the secret's lying on the seat next to you, and you turn on the car and you don't go anywhere because you forgot to put it into gear. So you have to go put the car into gear. You have to take a little deliberate, inspired action in order to get the show on the road. Then you get out on the road and you start driving in the wrong direction. And what does your GPS do? It says, make a legal U-turn. So here's the question. Did you do something wrong? No, you didn't do anything wrong. Some people would say you went in the wrong direction, but you really just went in a direction the GPS says, change your direction. You said, okay. There's nothing really wrong about that at all. Just change your direction. So you didn't do anything wrong. And that's the way I look at the whole thing about what we normally say, well, I did it wrong. No, actually, you didn't really do it wrong. You just did it in a way that, looking back at it, you wouldn't have preferred to do it that way. But that doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah, and I love the Mike Dooley illustration, and I totally agree with what you're saying. One of the things I have a very strong leaning is when it comes to any kind of affirmation. And to me, that phrase from Abraham is kind of an affirmation, or it's kind of a belief system.
Well, it's certainly well accepted. So in that sense, it fits
it's like whatever words you use habitually, make sure you line up with them. True. And that's all I was saying. It's like when you say you always get it right, that stuck me. I was like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. So that could not be my today affirmation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But when I say I never get it wrong, I can never get it wrong, that has a very light feeling for me. So even though I totally get where the words feel like they're leaning on the negative, the concept to me is very positive, because it feels like it gives me a break. I don't have to be such the ultra perfectionist that I had been for most of my life. I can let perfection go. So I can never get it wrong feels good to me. Because I used to focus on what did I do wrong. My father was very critical, so he was always looking at what I did wrong. And so if I know I can never get it wrong, it's like, Dad, I can't get it wrong.
It's almost like you gave your permission. You gave yourself permission to not get it wrong, right?
Exactly. So that's why that phrase feels so good. Now, if I was talking to a client and they said, oh my God, I hate that phrase, that so doesn't feel good to me, I'd say, all right, let's change it. Just like you did. I love that you changed it around to, I always get it right. If that feels good to you, then that's the right phrase for you.
Yeah, well, it definitely feels good. Yeah.
I can never get it wrong feels awesome, but I've never liked the second half because you never get it done. Because my personality temperament loves accomplishment. And if I can't get something done, oh my God, kill me now. So the fact that I've kind of, as we're just kind of playing around with it, saying, because I can do it over and over and over until my heart's content, until I don't want to work on it anymore, that feels very good. That feels like, oh yeah, I can do do-overs. That means, again, that lends itself to there's no perfection. I don't have to do it perfect on the first try. And I love that feeling, like, do it? Okay, not what you want. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. You got all the do-overs you want. That feels good to me.
Isn't it interesting how that concept of perfection, it knocked both of us for a loop. Your way of handling it through this phrasing and my way of handling it are different, but we both got hung up on the perfection at one point, and to some degree still are, perhaps. Well, I mean, the way I turn it around for myself, the reason I like the more positive expression of it rather than saying you can't get it wrong, I like the more positive, you always get it right, is because if I am saying to myself, I always get it right, then that obviates the need for perfection. Well, I already got it right. I did it perfectly. Did I get the result I was looking for? No, but that doesn't mean I did it wrong. It just means I just didn't do it the way I wanted to do it to get that result. But okay, I can switch. It's not like I lost anything. I still did it right, and that feels good. It feels good, like, oh, good. I achieved the perfection. I'm done.
Cool. And honestly, I like the idea of doing it over and over. That actually works for me. As a costume designer, my partner, he came up with the phrase, and then it became just how we lived. As a designer, the first time you do something, because it's the first time out of the box, it's usually not the perfect version. And I loved it when we had to do multiples of something, because what he would say is, the first time you do something, you learn what not to do. The second time you learn how to do it. The first time you learn what not to do. The second time you learn what to do. And the third time, how to do it. So it's like each step is a refining step. So we're like, oh, well, if we had to do it again, like if we did it the first time, if we had to do it again, I wouldn't do this. But it didn't mean we knew what we would do. So the second time we do it, we're like, okay, don't do this. And then we start to work out what we would do. But then we realized that was not nearly as efficient, and there's a better way to do that. And so the third time was the how to do it, which was created the efficiency. And by the fourth time, woohoo, we were on total efficiency. And so for us, it's like we loved it when we'd have to do like 15, 20, 25 of the same something, because we were making money on times 4 through 25. We were usually breaking even or losing money on 1 to 3. And if we only had one, we usually lost money.
Yeah, I see that. Sure.
You know, it's like we might not have literally lost money if he and I were doing the labor, because we didn't charge ourselves for the labor. But the more you did it, the more you figured stuff out. And so I think because I am an artist, regardless what medium I'm working with, I love to get my hands in the clay. And I love to do things repetitively because I love to see how I can make it better and more efficient with each time that goes on. So that's probably what inspires me to say I love to do it over and over and over. I get to do do-overs. I can have as many do-overs as I want. That totally works for me until I don't want to do anymore. And so that gives me a sense of control over the creativity of whatever manifestation I'm working on.
Well, cool. I mean, if that works, that's great. That's fantastic. Now, speaking of do-overs, there is a do-over I want to do. I do it a lot, and I'm going to do it here. And that is, if you're a new subscriber and you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, please take a moment and just go to our homepage at loatoday.net. All the instructions are right there. It takes literally about a minute. It's completely free. And the best part is when you're done, you get all of our episodes sent right to your smartphone every single time that we do an episode. And so they're all lined up for you. And any time that you need to get your daily dose of happy, you just play an episode. You can play it in the background on the way to work. What's that?
And here's something like if you're at your office and you subscribe to our podcast, as soon as Walt has uploaded the morning podcast, like it on my computer, I finally figured this out. My computer goes bing, bing. And I quickly ran to it. I did it a couple times in a row over the last couple days. And I'm like, yes, there's a little notification from the RSS feed. And it says the new Daily Dose of Happy is now there. So if you're working from an office and you're subscribing from your office computer, the moment it's available, the new podcast will be, like come up on your desktop, and you can put your headset in and you can start listening.
So get your bing bing.
Bing bing.
And after you get your bing bing. I've been
hearing that bing bing for the longest time, not knowing what it was. So today I went, okay, it's not on my laptop from my day job computer, and I quickly flipped over to my personal computer and went, yes, that message, the RSS feed, it's that. So I'm like, okay, it happened once. So, and I've done it now 3 times, and it's happened every time. And I'm like, that's it. That's what that noise is. That's so cool. So there is an audio notification letting you know that it's there on your personal computer or however you have it set up. I guess that's how I set it up, but I thought it was pretty funny. Thought I'd share it here.
Well, now that we got the bing bing out of the way, the last thing I want to mention is after you got your bing bing, make sure you share it on social media. Oh, God. All right. Well, we got 45 seconds before the music. One last thing, and I want to make sure I do this because I've been doing it more with the others. I haven't done as much with you. So for somebody who needs that personal touch, because your touch is great, and especially for somebody who wants to make that kind of quantum leap that you specialize in, how do they reach out to you?
They can go to the URL wendydillard.com.
See, you always make it so darn easy. I mean, geez.
I'm sorry.
Couldn't you make it more complex?
No. I mean, I got a wonderful email yesterday saying, hey, I read your website. I totally resonate with you. I'm an Abraham follower. Can we have, the free consultation? Can you tell me when you're available? So
nice.
She and I went back and forth on the timing, and so we've got it scheduled. And so we'll do a free consultation and talk about how I can help her and how I can assist her in what she's doing.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's the end of the week. We'll have the weekend show, of course. But, Wendy, I will talk to you again on Monday.
You got it. I'll be here.
And we'll be here as well. We hope you join us, too, here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye for now.